Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Lee, and I'm excited to be here with you today to talk about the book. And in particular, the book is called Winning with AI, the 90-Day Blueprint for Success. I'll throw up a picture of what it looks like here. I haven't shown it in a while, but that's the cover of the book, and it is in production right now. It should be coming out in May. I'm sorry, not May, March. In March. In May, I would just shoot myself. It's coming out in March. We're working on this specific date with the publisher, but it is coming out. And I wanted to talk today a little bit about what the process was like about writing this book. And I'll have my co author, Katia Walsh, who's a dear friend. I'll talk a little bit more about our relationship in just a bit. We'll be doing some other live streams in the future. But today, I just want to talk a little bit about what the book process was like for me. This is my seventh book that I've published, and this was a very different book in many ways. And so I want to talk a little bit about it, and also what I learned, how I grew, how I transformed, how the book transformed, and just give a little bit of insight as how on earth do you write a book about AI when everything is constantly changing? So I just wanted to talk about the fact that this book is about how you use AI to create value and how AI can potentially transform your organization. And the writing process itself was a transformation for me. So I want to go a little bit into that. So this book had been rolling around in my head for a couple months ever since ChatGPT came out. And whenever I see a new technology or new disruption coming, I'm like, oh, let's dig into this a bit more. And so I was thinking about writing this book because I could just see the potential for AI and what ChatGPT unleashed, the fact that any of us could use it if we just simply had a browser. And that was this incredible power put into the hands of everyday people. And so I was mulling around the book, trying to figure out if I was going to write something around it. And I was at in Boston for my business school reunion, and I sat down with Katia, who happened to then be the chief digital officer at Harvard Business School, and we just had coffee. And I said, I'm thinking about writing this book about AI, and she said, in all seriousness, I should write this book with you. And I looked right back at her. He goes, yes, absolutely. You should write this book with me. I was so honored that she would want to write a book with me and just thrilled because Katya has been a chief digital officer and a chief A officer for 15 years. As you can imagine, there aren't very many people like that. And as I'll go through in just a second, I really needed that expertise, that real world experience to write the book that I wanted to write about. So, a couple things that I just wanted to talk about is what the book started out as being. And it started out by being a book about, again, from the very beginning, we wanted to be about how do you win with AI. And the original title, I have it here, it was Threats, Bets, and No Regrets: How to Create a Winning Generative AI Strategy. And that is obviously not what we ended up with. We ended up with winning with AI. First of all, not generative AI, but just AI in general. And then we also decided to make it a very clear blueprint because what we realized in the beginning was that the book was really much more about, in the beginning, about explaining what AI was. Again, this is 2023, explaining what it could do, what it couldn't do, the good things and the bad things. And as we were working on the book and doing our research, what we realized is what leaders really needed was a book that told them how to get started, how to create value, a detailed book that would go into details that you wouldn't get in a podcast, you wouldn't get in an article or a newsletter. The blow by blow, step by step processes, the capabilities, the organizational structures, the culture, the governance, the technology that you needed to pull all this together. So this book began in a certain way in exploring to see what happens, and then it's shifted. So I want to go first of all into how the reality did not match our plan, and the leadership lesson that comes from this, which is as you begin and embark on these big transformative, disruptive initiatives that you do, where you end up may not exactly match what you plan to. So again, we started with this original focus of explaining what AI would do, and then we ended up focusing on what to do with AI to create value. It originally just had two parts, a part about how to set strategy and another part on execution. And the final structure was very different. We struggled with this for about 6 to 9 months, and then in March of 2024, we came up with this 90-day blueprint and an outline that laid out in 12 weeks all the different steps that you need to do. We felt that we needed to give people a fast start of how to use AI, and then also to, again, really pull together not so much a strategy for AI, but a roadmap for AI and how it would support your business strategy. And the thing that we got pushback on was, you must be insane thinking that you're going to write a book about AI because things are changing constantly. And I would 100% agree with that. This book is not about the technology of AI. It is about leadership and strategy. And those are topics that will stand the test of time, that technologies will come and go. But in the end, your organization is still there, needs to be led, needs to have a strategy of how you are going to use AI as a strategic, transformative application to support your strategy. So, one of the things that we found very interestingly is that I'll tell you just a little couple of things about the early stages of the book. We wrote a ton of stuff that we eventually just left behind. And some of my favorite content that we wrote was we talked about the generative aspects of AI, how it could create content, create value. But then we also spent a lot of time talking about the degenerative side of AI, the harmful side, the dark side, the problems that would happen and arise if leaders didn't act. And what we realized is that this book needed to be much more about, and again, not explaining what AI could and couldn't do. We'd still do that, but very quickly, and then move on to very, very specifically begin to lay out that blueprint again of what to do, because that's what people really wanted and craved. And so we pivoted in a pretty strong way after having written about half the book to just put it aside and do something completely different, take a different direction. So that was a really important thing that we decided to pivot. But the one thing that we persisted on was this whole idea of, how do you create value? How do you win with AI? How do you, again, cut through all the noise to the core and the essence of how do you use AI to create value? I'll share with you one other painful cut. Is, as a person with a strategic consulting background, I love assessments. I love creating them. I'm really good at creating them and executing them, using them to create value for organizations, because organizations want to know, how are we doing? Are we doing well against expectations, against best practices, etc.? And so I spent all this time creating an AI capability assessment tool, and was really proud about it, was testing it, getting good results. And then we realized that this was going to slow things down, that if organizations were to take time to, in their 90-day blueprint, to do a full assessment, to do a full capability look through of the organization, what they could do and couldn't do with AI, it was going to bog them down. And in the end, that it didn't matter. So we cut that detailed assessment, all of that content, because what we realized that out of the gate, knowing whether you were feasible, you could do AI or not, was not going to be the determining factor of whether you did a particular AI application and pursued it. Because if it was strategic, then it wouldn't matter. You just would have to do it. It didn't matter whether you had the capabilities or not. You would then say, do we have the capabilities to do this particular AI application that is going to be very strategic? And if we didn't, then we would figure out ways to either build it or to buy it. So realizing that made an assessment irrelevant. So we cut the whole thing. So I think the leadership lesson that I want to share from all of this is that This is not my first rodeo. This is I've written a lot of books, but this one, again, all the other books also took detours like this as well. But this one is very, very fresh, having just written it. And that as you set out on a path, to expect detours and not to be discouraged by that. That this is part of the natural process to build in time and, frankly, emotional bandwidth to deal with these detours, to deal with these setbacks, because they will absolutely happen. And the key is to have that vision of what you want to have as an endpoint. Our vision for this book never changed. Our vision of it being a helpful resource for people to understand and to tap into the power of AI was always at the center of the book. And so that kept us going forward and allowed us to take these different directions to try and navigate our way through all these different obstacles to try to figure out the right way forward. So that's my first point and key learning from the book. From not actually writing the book. So the second point is that friction is a good thing. Now, I wrote this book with a dear, dear friend, Katia. We have known each other for, I think if I'm doing the math now, 25, 26, 26, almost 27 years. We started at Forrester in 1999. That is the dark ages. That is like decades ago. And we started within a few months of each other and formed a fast friendship. A year later, Katja had her first child. I had my second child. She didn't have a lot of family and in the area in Boston, and so I came over and just really helped her like figure out what is this whole thing called motherhood. So we have literally gone through life together. So why not write a book together? And this level of trust and friendship really allowed a incredibly high level of disagreement. We are both very strong-minded. We are both very successful, have a lot of experience and knowledge and expertise and background. And we are both very humble and have humility that there is still so much to know, so much to learn, and not in general, but also from each other. So this was an incredibly trust-driven, um, a lot of care and kindness and love between the two of us. And I'm going to have Katia on a live stream in the near future, probably in the next month, so that you can hear and see in real time what this relationship is like. And what happened is the way that we wrote the book is we would collaborate on creating these outlines. And then because Katja was working full time as a chief digital officer or as an AI lead in her job, I did most of the writing. So I would write during the week, and then we would get together on the weekends and discuss it. Katja also took the lead in a lot of the detailed writing around again, some of her experience as a chief digital officer, as a chief data officer, as a chief AI officer. She could write in a much more personal way, visceral way, like she has been there. So she wrote a lot more of some of the technical areas around governance, because she could write from that era of experience. And the thing that would, and then we also met a few times in person to push through some of the tougher sections. So what was interesting is that because Katja was reading the writing, I made it clear to Katja that as she was reviewing it, that you could say anything. She could give me any feedback and I can handle it. And it's true. I have a pretty tough skin. I do not hold my words or my ideas very tightly. And I'm very open to having feedback because I always see it as a gift, that it's a way to improve it because it's only one perspective that I bring. And yet at the same time, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to hear that feedback sometimes. But I knew it came from a point of support and care and love. And it was always, always delivered with kindness. And that's what makes this collaboration just so precious and wonderful and beautiful to me, that we had this openness to make the book, to make the work better. And I'll give you an example. One of the things that I take great pride on is that I feel like I'm a very good writer, and Katja just took it to another level. So I'll give you one example. We had a list of banned words. So again, in my sort of consulting strategy speak, would always constantly use words like alignment and leverage and capability. And she goes, that's not very specific. It's not useful. Vague things, words like alignment don't make, that doesn't really help. Being specific is being much more useful. So instead of using alignment, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that you're matching the intentions? Are you coordinating? Are you connecting? Are you integrating? So it was this challenge to not be lazy with my words and to make sure to always be very specific and useful in my writing. And I'll just share one other situation where we were just again, one of the hardest moments in our work together is that we were coming up against a deadline. We were just both exhausted. Our emotions were just frayed, and we just went okay. And we were doing this remotely too, as well, so it just adds another level. And we both just kind of lost it, and so we just went, let's take a break, let's settle down and come back to this. And we took the time to remind each other of how much we cared and respected each other. And then we came back and slogged through. So the leadership lesson here is that creation is hard work. It is hard work to create something new and to invest in the team and the people in it, because you want to allow that productive friction, but you also want to make sure that you never sacrifice the relationship for the project. That relationship has to come first. You have to safeguard that. And the investment that we took in our time to check in with each other, and of course, we're going to check in with each other's lives because we're such good friends. That investment is not slowing things down. It allows you to create the work. All right, so that's the second thing I wanted to just share. The third thing I want to share is just what I learned about myself through this whole process. And I think this is the mirror effect that you get from doing deep work. First of all, at the beginning of the process, I hit the wall with imposter syndrome. I felt that I did not know enough about AI to be credible, and took a lot of time to just get smart on it, learn a lot, use it, talk to a lot of people, do research. And having Katia there as an expert in AI just helped enormously. And again, she would keep me in check because I'd be doing this work and learning. And then there would be times when she would just gently say, Shar, that's not how it works in the real world. And so it was a great check. And having a hands-on practitioner and a person who uses AI kept me really grounded. But it also gave me insights into the idea, gave me insight into that, yes, I really do know what I'm talking about. And the fact that I could bring new ideas, new research, new experiences, and learning and using AI hands-on helped me address that imposter syndrome, because it was it was in my head. To anybody I talked to, I was an expert in AI, but it never felt that way. And and as I was working on the book, there would be times when that would come up again and again, to say like, what do I know about this stuff? I can't be writing this stuff about AI when I'm clearly not an expert. But then I realized that the work I was doing was very important, that it was valuable, and that I had to keep going and overcome that imposter syndrome, that it was totally in my head. The second thing I learned was that I can tend to over rely on AI. And this is the key thing about having somebody read my work, is that Katja could tell when I was using AI too much. My writing wasn't as sharp. I overused certain grammatical conventions that were clearly coming from AI. And I was just trying to get words on paper without enough direction to the AI. I was just trying to get it out because I felt so much time pressure. And so it really was a wake up call for me to slow down, to use AI appropriately in the places where it was good, and not to rely on it so much for the actual content creation. Again, AI is a fantastic writer, But for the purposes of this book, and we write about this extensively in the book about how we actually use AI when we didn't use AI. But I found that using AI actually slowed us down in some places because it got in the way when we had to slog through drafts that AI had written, and we would have been better off with me slogging through the drafts and then reviewing them. So the third thing I learned was again that it's hard to maintain momentum. In late 2024, we had again sort of figured out the overall outline in the spring of 2024, and we're working towards it. But we found that personal lives and work lives were colliding for us. So there were definite lulls in the process, and in terms of energy and productivity. And then when January 2025, the turning of the calendar into a new year, it brought new energy. And frankly, we just looked at each other and goes, we need to finish this book. It's been going on for too long. It's just been hanging over our heads. We need to really focus on this. And that was new energy that we brought into 2025, and it sustained us through the end of the year. We finished it in November, and now we're in production. The last thing that I would say is that I really learned to be less of a cheerleader for AI and much more of what I call a realist optimist. To say that, again, there is this very strong fear about AI and avoidance of AI. It's genuine. And while it's lessening, I still see that a lot of people are fearful of it, not sure about it. So I become less of a cheerleader, a knee jerk cheerleader, much more of this realist optimist, and stepping back and really listening to people about where are they coming from? What are their biggest concerns? What are their biggest obstacles? What are their biggest hopes and opportunities for what they want AI to do for them? And that pausing and listening and beginning the conversation from where people are is something I've learned to do because of the book, because we've had to write the book for many different types of people who are zooming ahead, have a lot of various AI applications already in place. And we have people who are still just saying, I just don't understand how AI can create value. So this was a book, again, that it really transformed me. And in many ways, it was a very different book for me from all the other books. The other books that I've written dealt with sweeping explanations of disruption. My last one, The Disruption Mindset, talked about this whole idea of how do you disrupt yourself. And I love books because they are an opportunity to be expansive, to tell stories, to go into detail. And this book was different. And it had that opportunity, but it was also a blueprint. It needed to be specific. It needed to be detailed. And again, we wanted to put into it information that you can't find in a podcast, you can't find in a newsletter. And as a result, the book is long. It's detailed. It's going to be over 250 pages. But we have details in there about how to create AI fluency programs. We have details about how to develop an AI ready culture. We have details into there about step by step, how do you create an AI roadmap that is going to support business strategy? And writing those details, figuring out how to put them into a way that business leaders could understand, took time and energy. And it was excruciatingly hard to do that, is what I found. So I'm excited about the book. It's coming out in March, early mid March is what we're looking at right now. And I just want to say who this book is for and who this book is not for. This book is not for someone who already has a solid AI roadmap. Kudos to you. It's not for somebody who's already on their way to delivering organization wide value with your AI. That's fantastic that you're doing that. And it's not for somebody who already has a completely fluent AI workforce, that everybody in their organization, I'm kind of laughing because I know this is not the case. And so the thing is what I'm saying here is that the whole book may not be for everyone, but I do believe that sections of the book are going to be helpful for certain people because there's something in there for everyone. there is still so much work to be done, so many things we can learn. So one of the ways that we encourage people to read the book, to use the book, is to not to read it through, but to read it and dig down into very specific areas that they may want to focus on. And I'll just give you one controversial take from the book just to feed a little bit of insight into it. One of the most controversial things we say and continue to say is that your CIO may not be the right person to be leading your AI efforts. In fact, they're probably not. It's not to say they don't know the technology or they're not strategic, but that AI is a technology. Yes, that is true. And your CIO, your top technology leader, needs to be involved. But it's also a strategic business opportunity. And because of that, we strongly believe a business leader needs to lead your AI efforts in collaboration with your technology people. The worst thing that can happen is that your business leader absolves themselves of all responsibility of thinking about and working with AI and just turns it over to the IT people to run it as a technology effort. If you do that, you will always just see marginal efficiency and productivity gains from AI. It will not have that transformative value. So the one key takeaway that I would encourage you to take is that if you are not creating that sort of transformative value where AI is supporting a business strategy, start today. Put everything else down that you're doing. Stop reading the newsletters and say, what is my business strategy? How am I using AI to support it? And what are the most important steps I need to take right now to be able to realize that value? We talk about thinking big with your strategy, starting small and scaling fast. So we'll have a lot more to talk about over the next few months about how you actually do this. I just want to put it out there again that if you would like more information about the book, you can go get it. I'll put the book up here again too as well, so you can see it. If you would like to learn more about the book and also sign up for updates, go to winningwithaibook.com. So not winning with AI only, winningwithaibook.com. And you can sign up for updates there. And then also, I just wanted to just talk a little bit about, let me get back to where I want to be. And I'll be back again in a week. I will be, where am I going to be? I'm going to be down in Florida, actually, because I know I'm going to be remote, not in San Francisco. But I'll be there again at the usual time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And I'll be talking about how to be AI ready and how that is different from being AI first. And you're hearing a lot of these terms being thrown around. I want to dig down deeper into what that actually means and to really push yourself in your organization and the companies, your vendors that you're working with. Like, what does this mean? What does it look like? And because I think language really matters and your intent behind that language also really matters. So join me next week, Tuesday the 3rd. And until then, stay safe, go create value with AI, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much.